Caitlin Clark was one heck of a basketball player, but what I did not know was that Caitlin Clark, yes folks, is a time traveler herself.
Caitlin Clark just sent shockwaves through the entire WNBA. After weeks of silence, endless whispers, and the pressure building higher every day, the news fans have been desperate for is finally here. She's coming back. But why now? What shifted behind the curtain? And can her return truly rescue the Indiana Fever's season? Let's break it down. Caitlin Clark's comeback is officially real. And make no mistake, this changes everything. For weeks, fans were left in the dark as injury reports stayed cloudy. Practices shut their doors, and the Fever stayed quiet. But then came the announcement. And just like that, the entire WNBA shifted overnight. The league's brightest star is stepping back on the floor, and the ripple effect is already impossible to ignore for teams, sponsors, and broadcasters. This isn't just one player healing up. This is momentum, playoff stakes, and a brand new vision for what's possible in Indiana. Before Clark went down, everything in the Fever offense ran straight through her shot creation and playmaking. Without her, the Fever struggled to find rhythm and looked like a team still searching for identity. But now with Clark gearing up to return, the energy surrounding this franchise feels completely different. Here's the question everyone is asking. Is she really ready to come back at full strength? That's what makes this moment so powerful. Fans are buzzing with anticipation, rivals are uneasy, and the league is watching closely because a healthy Caitlin Clark changes everything from matchups to ticket sales to playoff momentum. Yet this comeback doesn't arrive without risk. And that's where the story takes its sharpest turn. Caitlin Clark's road to this moment has been anything but smooth. What was supposed to be her breakout season became a grueling battle with her own body. First, the nagging groin injury that pulled her off the floor right when the Fever needed her most. That setback sparked heated debates about whether she was really being protected out there, especially with the relentless contact she's absorbed all season long. Just when it felt like she was finally close to stepping back, disaster struck again. A bone bruise in her left ankle during solo training in early August. Overnight, her return went from uncertain to completely unpredictable. Fans, analysts, even players across the league began circling the same question. Would she actually see the floor again this season? And the rehab wasn't just physical, it was mental. The weight on Clark's shoulders isn't like anything we've seen in years. She's carrying the hopes of the Fever, the passion of the fan base, and in many ways, the future of the WNBA itself. Every day away from the court built the anticipation higher, but it also built the scrutiny louder. Was Indiana rushing her back? Was she truly giving her body the time it needed to heal? And still, through every setback, here we are. Clark's resilience has pushed her right back into position for a return. And from every report, she's been sharp in practice. The question isn't if she's coming back. It's whether she can play at the level that turned her into the most talked about name in basketball. Because while Caitlin Clark was sidelined, the Indiana Fever was still fighting for survival. Guard depth completely collapsed. Ari McDonald, Sydney Colson, and Sophie Cunningham all went down with injuries, leaving the Fever scrambling just to fill minutes. Without Clark's scoring and playmaking, Indiana struggled to create rhythm, their offense sputtering against elite teams. But here's the remarkable part. The Fever didn't quit. Kelsey Mitchell and Analysts Smith rose to the challenge, grinding out wins nobody thought they'd steal. They've fought for every possession, playing with grit and heart. But heart alone hasn't been enough to push them into true playoff contention. That's why Clark's return isn't just about a superstar stepping back on the floor, it's about restoring balance to a roster that's been stretched to its breaking point. Indiana has been climbing uphill without her, but now, with their centerpiece back, there's a chance to reset their entire offensive identity. Here's the truth. The Fever's postseason hopes are dangling by a thread. They don't control their fate. Not yet. But with Clark in uniform again, everything changes fast. Every single possession matters now. And every win could decide everything. Whether this team sneaks into the playoffs or ends up watching from home will come down to one thing: Caitlin Clark's return. Can it spark the late-season turnaround Indiana desperately needs? That's the gamble the Fever are taking, and it sets the stage for one of the most fascinating stretches of basketball we've seen all year. Want proof they're preparing? Just look at the roster moves. Indiana quietly released Kira Lambert after signing her to a 7-day deal meant to patch up their guard rotation. She barely saw the floor 4 seconds in one game before being waived. That decision turned heads around the league, but it made perfect sense. Lambert wasn't a long-term answer. She was a placeholder, a way to keep the wheels turning until Clark came back. Cutting her this soon sends one clear message. Indiana believes Clark's return is imminent. Odyssey Sims, meanwhile, has carved out a bigger role. The veteran logged 42 minutes in a recent game, showing exactly why she's invaluable, steady, reliable, and capable of easing Clark back into action. Sims isn't just a stopgap, she's insurance. A veteran who thrives under pressure when Clark isn't on the floor. Every move the Fever are making feels intentional. Every piece is about timing, patience, and trust in their star's return. Indiana isn't panicking. They are quietly setting themselves up for maximum flexibility the moment Clark steps back on the floor. With 9 games left, every slot in the rotation matters, and the Fever's front office knows it. Read between the lines and you'll see it. This wasn't random, it was calculated. Indiana is preparing to hand the keys right back to Caitlin Clark, and they want the roster ready to amplify her impact the second she returns. So the burning question remains, when is Caitlin Clark actually coming back? That's the million-dollar mystery. According to insider whispers and team scheduling, the likely window falls between August 22nd and 26th, with that Seattle Storm matchup circled in red. And the timing couldn't be more perfect. The Fever get an extended break after their last outing, giving Clark valuable time to build up conditioning without missing crucial games. Head coach Stephanie White has already hinted that Clark's been taking part in full contact practices, a signal that usually marks the final step before a comeback. Step before a player is fully cleared for game action. But here's the reality. This timeline isn't set in stone. Recovering from a bone bruise is unpredictable, and the Fever know better than to gamble with their franchise star by rushing her back too soon. That's what makes these next few days so fascinating. Do they push for an earlier return to fuel a desperate playoff push? Or do they take the cautious route and wait until she's truly at 100%? Here's the twist. Every single game carries weight now. The Fever are running out of runway, which means they need Clark on the floor sooner rather than later. But one wrong step could derail everything, her season and the team's. All signs still point toward late August, but until Indiana makes it official, fans will be holding their breath. And make no mistake, the night Clark steps back on the court, it won't just be another regular season game. It'll feel like the playoffs from the opening tip. For Caitlin Clark, this return isn't only about playing again. It's about protecting her future. She's already shown she's one of the most dynamic, she's one of the most electrifying offensive players in the WNBA. But the stakes here couldn't be any higher. Come back too soon and risk making the injury worse, and the course of her entire career could be altered. Wait too long, and Indiana's season might vanish before she even steps back on the court. That's the razor's edge she's balancing on right now. But this isn't only about the season, it's about her legacy. Clark isn't just another rising star. She's the face of a franchise, and in so many ways, the face of the league itself. Every move she makes is magnified. Every game becomes a headline, and this return is no different. Fans are holding her to an impossible standard, expecting her to immediately shine like before, but missing this much time changes everything. Her conditioning, her rhythm, her chemistry with teammates, it'll all be tested from the start. Yet pressure is where Clark lives. We've seen her do it, like that unforgettable 32-point, 7 3-pointer eruption against the Liberty in her last return. The question now is the same. Can she rise to that level again? This isn't just about saving the Fever's season. It's about showing, once more, that Caitlin Clark can carry the weight of expectation better than anyone in the game across the league. Caitlin Clark's return isn't just a boost for the Fever, it tilts the entire balance of the WNBA. Her presence reshapes playoff dynamics, forces defenses to rewrite their schemes, and shifts the spotlight of national coverage every time she steps on the floor. And the numbers tell the story. Clark leads the Fever in assists 8.8 and points 16.5 this season. Defenses swarm her with double teams almost every trip down the court, and that pressure creates open shots for teammates, lifting the whole offense. Without her, Indiana barely scrapes past 75 points per game. With her, the output climbs dramatically, but it stretches beyond basketball. Whenever Clark plays, arenas fill up. Broadcast schedules shuffle to showcase Fever games in prime slots. Sponsors pour in because they know her presence creates unmatched engagement across the sport. That's why her return feels less like a team update and more like a league-wide event. The WNBA's viewership has been breaking records this year, and Caitlin Clark sits at the center of it all. For rival teams, her comeback means the entire picture shifts in an instant. Coaches now have no choice but to craft game plans around Clark. Her limitless shooting range, the way she bends defenses inward, and that vision that turns teammates into instant scorers. Simply put, Caitlin Clark doesn't just step back into the Fever, she reshapes the competitive landscape for everyone in her path. That's why this comeback isn't ordinary news, it's the defining storyline of the entire season. Once Clark returns, the Fever's approach on the floor will look different. Coach Stephanie White has already suggested she'll start with a minutes restriction, but don't be fooled. Clark remains the engine that powers this team. Expect Indiana to lean heavily on her perimeter shooting to stretch the defense, pulling opponents far beyond the arc and clearing space for Kelsey Mitchell and Alyssa Smith to attack inside. That delicate balance has been missing since Clark's absence. And off-ball action, it becomes crucial again, setting the stage for a far more dynamic offense. By running Clark through staggered screens, Indiana can manufacture mismatches that send defenders scrambling to recover. With her shooting touch, she needs only the smallest sliver of daylight to punish a defense. On the other end, Clark's presence shifts the matchups too, with her knack for sparking transition chances. Opponents are forced to tighten up, limit mistakes, and avoid turnovers that tilt the tempo Indiana's way. But the biggest challenge here isn't X's and O's, it's chemistry. Clark hasn't logged heavy minutes with this exact group, especially with teammates taking on new roles during her absence. Fitting her back in seamlessly is the key if the Fever want a real playoff push. Because the truth is simple, Indiana's offense shifts into a completely different gear the second Clark steps on the floor. The question isn't if she'll change the game, it's how fast the Fever can ride that spark. 9 games remain. That's the window to flip their season, and every single one counts. Right now, the Fever sit just outside the playoff picture, but the gap is small enough to chase down. With Clark back, Indiana instantly turns into a tougher draw for Dallas, Seattle, and Chicago, teams fighting for those same spots. Here's the reality. Indiana needs 6 wins in their last 9 games to keep a true shot at sneaking into the postseason. That means no slip-ups, no trap games, and full focus against direct rivals. Clark's return won't promise victories, but it rewrites the math completely. Her scoring, her vision, and her ability to dictate tempo could be the edge between hanging around and stealing crucial wins. And this stretch, it isn't only about grabbing a playoff seed. It's about building momentum. Even if Indiana doesn't make a deep run this year, showing they can compete with Clark steering the way sets the foundation for next season and beyond. The Fever haven't been this close in years, and now, at last, they have a chance to make noise. With Clark back, survival isn't the mission anymore. They are playing to reshape what's possible. Caitlin Clark's return isn't just about the next tip-off. It's about the ripple that follows. This is a turning point, not only for her, but for the league itself. If she comes back strong, pushes Indiana into a playoff charge, and reminds everyone why she's the game's most electric star, her legacy as a generational talent gets sealed. But risk hangs in the air. If the injury lingers, or the Fever stumble despite her spark, the spotlight grows harsher, the questions louder. That's what makes this comeback captivating. It isn't scripted for triumph, and every fan knows it. Caitlin Clark has already reshaped the game with her range, her vision, her leadership. Now she can shift the story again, proving that under the heaviest pressure, she delivers when it matters most. Fans have waited months for this night. The league has shaped schedules around it. Rivals have circled it. And now, it's here. The only question is this: will Caitlin Clark rise above the weight of expectation? Or will it crush her? One truth stands firm. From the moment she takes the floor again, every shot, every possession, every win will carry more weight than ever before.